Max, welcome back to the show. Congratulations on 4th and 21st in Vintage and Legacy, respectively. Running
Thank
it
you.
back a whole year later just kind of proves that you're like one of the end bosses for both these formats.
I try my best, man. I try my best.
Yeah, it's proof you're also not Samson. You were able to cut your hair and you still maintained your power.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
I didn't know. I had one way to find out, and it's by doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do you think maybe if I shave, I'll start doing good at magic? Maybe that's what told me back.
No. The beard is where the power is.
Okay,
Keep it.
okay. Maybe I just need like some Just for Men or something like that.
Yeah,
Brings me up.
exactly.
But all follicle points aside, yeah, a hell of a run on both events, and that's when with you starting in Legacy at 0-1 because you had to play in Vintage Champs.
1-1. They gave me a bye, and then they gave me a round 2 loss.
Okay, that's fair. I guess that's fair. I don't know if that is fair, but it didn't seem to hinder you too much.
I mean, it kept me out of top 8, technically.
Sure, I guess that's fair.
But I could have also won more matches of Magic. The reality of it, so just full disclosure, I ended up actually going at 2-1 against the bye. I got a round 10 bye too, because I had somehow dropped from the tournament after finishing day 1 6-3. And I got put back in. Like I noticed around 8:50 a.m. on Sunday, and it's like went to the tournament help desk and it's like, hey, I'm dropped. I shouldn't be. And they're like, well, yeah, we'll put you back in. It actually makes an odd number of players. If anyone else also got dropped, you're playing against them. Otherwise, you have a bye.
Sounds great.
So I ended up being the odd number in day 2 from that. And so I ended up 2-1 against the bye. And then I went 9-2-1 at the end with an ID in matches played in Legacy. So obviously, having a match loss granted to you isn't great, but I also knew about that going into this. They were very upfront with like, hey, if you top 4 Vintage and you're trying to play Legacy, you're going to get a round 2 loss.
Yeah. Sorry you did so good in another format that you made a bunch of money.
So like ideally that's not the case for people. If you asked me, hey Max, do you want a 2-1 record granted to you in this tournament? I would have said no. But it is what it is. And it's like not too bad. I went 9-2-1 in matches played, which is actually the same record I did in Vintage. Was since I went 8-1 in the Swiss with an ID at the end, and then I won my top 8, lost my top 4. So now,
some people go their whole Magic career and don't do as well as you did over the course of two years of Eternal Weekend for their entire life. So I guess if I were put in the same position, I would be like, yeah, this is fine.
Yes, we take it.
Yeah. Finding the right high-end cards for Legacy, Vintage, Pre-Modern, or Old School Magic can be challenging. That's where friends 3-for-1 Trading come in.
3-for-1 Trading is one of Europe's top Magic the Gathering retailers with an incredible selection of premium singles, sealed product, and even full sets, all available with free, fast, and secure worldwide shipping.
They add fresh inventory every Wednesday with weekly deals and discounts. So whether you're hunting for that elusive piece of power, a Legacy staple, or something spicy for your collection, they've got you covered.
First high-end orders over $500 or 500 euros, use the code EDFREE to get free worldwide shipping.
Check them out now at the number 3, the number 4, the number 1.gg/ED. That link takes you right to the shop and helps support the channel.
Huge thanks to 3-for-1 Trading for supporting the Legacy community. Now back to the show.
So I want to first talk about Vintage. You obviously won last year, and I think we're going to have Jeremy on who won this year probably yesterday.
Awesome.
So this will probably be going out on Tuesday. We spoke with Jeremy and two vastly different decks. And I wondered what you think about the Vintage format right now. He was on Mono White Initiative.
Sure
You're
was.
on what, like Sultai Control list?
Yeah, it's like I call it Bug Lurrus. Just it's control mid range. I don't know. Everything's kind of blurred, right? It plays more creatures than like your typical like blue black Lurrus lists or Esper Lurrus lists because I'm playing a full set of death rates as well as Collector Roofs, Kishla Skimmers. So it's a heavier creature base. I would call it mid range, but it doesn't really matter. It's fair vintage is kind of how I would classify it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. Anyone playing Collector Ulf is playing fair vintage, I would say.
Exactly. But like the blue black Lurrus deck and the Esper Lurrus deck, I also call fair vintage. Like they're playing like essentially like a legacy deck powered up to vintage level. It's just like a grindy Delver deck is kind of the best way to explain those decks. And there's 3 flavors of them. They're all basically aiming to shrink the game down to where you can like leverage stuff like Spell Pierce and have a 7 forces and recoup the card disadvantage of your forces because you have a psychic rug. Like that's kind of the game plan for all of them in varying degrees.
Yeah. As opposed to say like the PO Lurrus decks.
Exactly, where you go Mox,
yeah.
PO, pick up my hand, draw cards. Now I have more of these. Boom, 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 boom. Snapcaster, PO from the graveyard, pick up my Snapcaster. We keep going.
Oh God.
Like those that's a Lurrus deck too, but it's not exactly fair Magic.
Yeah, it's definitely a different kind. It's a different feel for sure.
Exactly.
So how do you feel about the format overall right now? Because to an outsider looking in, I'm not a vintage player for the most part. Although I do think for Eternal Weekend Europe, I'm just going to sleeve up that mono blacklist that made top 8 because I think I can afford that. How do you feel about the format right now? Because for an outsider looking in, I see a lot of Lurrus, right? You've mentioned there are different kinds, but I'm seeing a homogeny and the choice of that card being kind of integral to every deck. Now, it doesn't seem problematic, but let me know. What do you think?
So Lurrus isn't free in Vintage. There's a lot of I'm going to start with it's the only card that's ever been in discussion for a ban in Vintage based off of power level. So we'll start there. It's very good, but it's not just like this auto include, right? Playing it means you can't play Tinker Citadel. Playing it means you can't play Oko, Leovold, Hullbreacher, the One Ring, Coveted Jewel. There's a lot of very powerful cards in Vintage that playing Lurrus means that you cannot register in your deck. And so, yeah, there's fair Lurrus decks because having Lurrus as a 6-card advantage threat and an 8th card in your hand functionally is very, very good. But then there's also just there's like a bug mid-range deck that plays like the 3 drops I mentioned, Oko, Leovold, Hullbreacher, that I think is a little bit weaker, but it exists. There's Oath decks, there's all your workshop decks, there's Jewel, there's all your Bazaar decks, and so Mono White Initiative is a deck that doesn't play Lurrus. And then apparently we have Goblins and Scam too as non-Lurrus reasonable decks. And the point being is, Lurrus is very good, but like seeing a lot of Lurrus down the field is like looking at a legacy thing and seeing a lot of brainstorms. Yeah, your blue-black tempo deck and your Sneak and Show list and your Nadu mid-range all play 4 brainstorms. Are those the same deck?
Yeah. I think that's kind of my impression. Again, as an outsider looking into this format, is it seems healthy because there are different builds, and I think the average person looking at it just sees Lurrus and assumes that every Lurrus deck is kind of the same. But there's significant choices you're making between color choices, even if you're playing the fair version versus playing like a PO deck or something like that. Not being able to play Oath is a thing, or I guess you could play Oath if you wanted to, but like, why would you put in a 2-drop, right? Until they start printing Atraxa, but it costs 2 mana, I think. We're safe, right? So yeah, I think I agree with you here is in that like it seems fine. I don't, I know that it had been discussion when BNRs come up, they would discuss like, okay, Lurrus is a question, but we don't think that the answer is get rid of it just yet. And I feel like we're reaching that point where, in Legacy, I think they've stopped talking about Orcish Bowmasters as like a card that we have to worry about.
To be fair, I don't think Lurrus is close to being ban-worthy in Vintage. Like, I don't think it should even be a discussion point. Like, sure, people can say ban Brainstorm and Legacy. It's like, okay, sure. But like, I don't think that Lurrus is actually good enough. Like, I don't think Lurrus has a stranglehold on the Vintage format in such a way that would require a ban.
Yeah, and I think let's look real fast. The top 8, you've got 2 Shops decks, you've got the Scam deck, you've got a Dredge deck, and you've got the Mono White deck, and then 3 Lurrus decks. So I think 2 Shops, three fair decks, as it were. These are all fair decks. Yeah, these are all fair decks. Dredge showing up as the everyone. There's got to be one. The token Dredge deck. And then Mono White Initiative and Scam. The top 8 by itself, you shouldn't judge all tournaments by their top 8, but the top 8 looks pretty healthy.
Yeah, exactly. And those 3 Lurrus decks are also the 3 Ancestral Recall decks. Like, if you look at it that way, like they're just the fair blue decks, and it's 3 different flavors of fair blue.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. Unless you have more that you
I just want to say Vintage, I think of all the constructed formats right now, Vintage is the healthiest. And I don't think it's that close.
It's way healthier than standard, I think. That's for
Yes.
sure. Speaking of format health, you played Reanimator in Legacy. You've been off and on in that deck for the most part over the last 2 years, doing quite well with it. Tell me about first why you make that choice, why you go for Reanimator.
So I was spending a lot of energy figuring out what to play in Vintage. Like up until a couple weeks before actual tournament weekend, I was losing a lot in Vintage. A lot of decks were just not working for me.
In Legacy, right?
No, in Vintage.
Oh, Vintage. Okay.
In Vintage. Oh, this is why I played Reanimator in Legacy.
Yeah.
This is the same
I
story.
see.
But things were not working for me in Vintage. I was trying all sorts of like different Fair Lurrus decks. I was trying the PO decks. I was trying the Mana Drain Gifts Ungiven Breach decks. I was trying which is the highest performing deck in Vintage over the weekend, but I went in when I was testing it, I went 0-6 in matches. It's a very challenging deck. But anyway, I was struggling a lot in Vintage. So for Legacy, I basically said, I'm going to just play Reanimator. If it's not the best deck, it's not far off from it. It's a safe choice. I know how to play it. As you said, I've been playing it on and off for the better part of the last 2 years. So I basically was like, okay, here's what I'm going to play in Legacy. Plus or minus a couple cards, but I know the strategy. Let me put my limited time because I work a full-time job. I have 2 kids. I've got a pretty busy life that I'm trying to balance, and I'm trying to test for these 2 formats.
Not to mention haircut appointments.
Yeah, exactly. Although short hair is a lot quicker than long hair. But anyway, long story short, I had to throw my energy somewhere, and I didn't know what to be doing in Vintage until I found this Bug Lurrus deck. So I put my energy into that and just said, okay, I'm going to play the safe choice in Legacy.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, stick with what works, obviously, too. It helps.
So, I mean, I think that, like, for instance, if I was like really dialed in, like trying everything in Legacy, I would have put more attention to this like blue post deck that got 11th place, stuff like that are actually really, really interesting. That's a really interesting, powerful deck. Anyone for Tournament Week in Europe should be paying attention to that. Stuff like there's a lot of things kind of at the cutting edge of Legacy. There is the Nadu midrange with Tameo in the main deck. That seems really powerful. I think just a couple days ago, Iko Baronin split the finals of a challenge with that kind of style of list. It's really good. These are all things that I would have probably been putting more effort into testing and comparing to Reanimator if Vintage weren't going so badly for me in testing.
Yeah. Okay. So with that said, you were focusing obviously a lot on Vintage to effect. So you made that decision. You said, okay, I'm just gonna I'm gonna focus my testing time on Vintage. I know what I'm doing in Legacy. You just went with Reanimator, and that I think you're beyond the fact that it bears out because you had a pretty good showing in the Legacy event. I think that stick with what you know. Stick with a deck that you're pretty sure is either the best deck or is very close to it. I'm right there with you, and that's why I went with Breakfast. I was like, I tried pivoting for the Steel City event like two months before, and didn't love my results with Reanimator. Didn't love my results with Demir Midrange or Demir Tempo or whatever, and was like, what, stick with what you know, Zach. You love to activate Urza Sagas. I like the pivot that Cephalid Breakfast offers me. So I went with I similarly I chose a deck that I thought was going to be one of the more powerful decks in the format, if not the most powerful. And and proven out in some cases. Look at Larson doing quite well with the deck. He was off. I think we were off by 3 cards.
Yeah.
So to that end, I know how I think everyone knows how Phil and I feel about Legacy right now, about a lot of things, and we can rank those things together. But how do you feel about the overall health of the format at present?
So I think there's a few decks or cards, depending upon how you want to slice it, that are sitting a tier above a lot of decks. So I think there's a lot of decks that are like fine, and then there's a few decks that are like just a bit better than those. And like the broad categories are Reanimator deck, One Ring deck, Nadu deck.
Mm-hmm.
I think that those 3 are just a bit better than the rest. And so do we ban Reanimate, the One Ring, and Nadu? and put everything in line? Or does that actually mean that something among all those good decks doesn't have a check on it and it's going to become the busted thing? I don't know. Or do we just say that things are close enough to like, there's a lot of different ways that you can approach Legacy. Green Black Pox, top aided. You can see deck experts putting up their prowess. You say Johan Larsson, who won Eternal Weekend in Europe last year.
ELM.
With Naughty Breakfast, he won ELM. With Naughty Breakfast, he top 4 this event. With Naughty Breakfast, like you can see John Barber, Mystic Forge player, up going. He top 8'd Eternal Weekend last year with Mystic Forge. He top 8'd Eternal Weekend this year with Mystic Forge, like back to back. You can see that these deck experts are continuing to perform. And so is it just like, hey, these decks are good, but also they just also then reward expertise, and that's fine? Or is it, hey, these decks are a little bit too good and we need to knock them down a peg? And I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah,
I think that people are gonna look at, there's a lot of data coming out right now at the Eternal Weekend number crunch. And you can basically say like, hey, Reanimator is at like 54%. And you can look at that and say, it's not crazy. But you can also look and say, people are having all this main deck graveyard hate and it's still positive. You can say, hey, Reanimator like is a fairly, in the top 64, pretty balanced. It's not like overwhelmingly represented relative to the amount of the field it was. But then you could also say, hey, it was 3 out of the top 8. You can say the same thing for Mystic Forge, and you can say, hey, it was 3 out of the top 8. And Mystic Forge, I think, had a higher win rate in the tournament. So anyway, not in mid-range also, like, you know, had a high win rate and had a pretty good top 8 conversion. And I think, so anyone who's going to start with the data says, and then a conclusion right now, I think is looking at the data through a particular lens to feed kind of the narrative that they want. And I personally don't know. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, that's
straight
a fair
up.
point.
I don't know what's
yeah,
right.
It's fair. It's fair.
to
It's
do.
totally fair to be like, hey, I mean, Eternal Dirtles is proud to be sponsored by Moxfield. Moxfield is the best Magic the Gathering deck building website on the internet. You can create, share, and find decks from Commander to Legacy and even fan-supported formats like Pre-Modern and Old School. You can see all of our decks on our Moxfield. Follow the links below to stay tuned. I'm excited to see what happens with the ban announcement. If they do anything, that's going to be very exciting for those next couple of days to try and determine like if we can fit a spot in, like if I can figure out like where the lane is, right? Like there will be people that figure out the lane and get rewarded for that. Generally, for me, that is my best time in Magic, is those like 1 to 2 weeks after a ban, or right as they drop a set. I learned the limited format, and for like a week or two, I can devote myself to that and be just ahead of everybody else. So I'm interested to see if that happens, because I don't know. I don't have high expectations for Eternal Weekend, but I have expectations. Like, I would like to do well, right? So if they don't change anything, I don't know that I'll feel any worse about the format or better, because I feel like it is a weird window for them to make a change, you know? They could easily pass the buck before, and I think that they could easily pass the buck here and be like, look, it's like 2 weeks before Eternal Weekend. Some people are going to be traveling, getting cards. It's a whole thing, you know. Like, I think that's defensible, but I would truly love to see some sort of a change happen. I also don't know what. I think if you ask the average person,
Deathrite Shaman is unbanned. Mana Drain is unbanned. The One Ring is banned.
oh man, but yeah, I mean, I'm so torn, Max, about doing another BNR video after like there was so much hype around the last one.
That's
yeah.
That's my dream list, but I'm not gonna like argue it.
Yeah, I'm so torn about doing another BNR because it's so much work, and then the hype train, everyone gets up, their emotions all up, and then like to see what happened in the last one, where like they were just like no, and also we're gonna type all the wrong things, felt bad. Like,
I will say one thing on a hypothetical if.
Yeah.
If they decide that, you know, if they want to take Reanimator down and they decide that a Reanimate ban doesn't cut it to where, like, you know, reanimation effects now cost 2, animate dead, blah, blah, blah. Like, if they decide that that's not enough, they want to ban Entomb, hypothetically. I really hope they unban Grief and unban Troll of Khazad-dûm, because I would like there to be a way to reanimate cards in Legacy, and like a scam deck. If we can't have a reanimator deck for whatever reason, I would like to at least have a scam deck in the format.
Okay.
So this is, again, I don't necessarily think they should ban Entomb, and actually I think they shouldn't ban Entomb for clarity. I think that if you want to hit something from Reanimator, hit Reanimate, make Reanimation effects cost 2. But if hypothetically they do ban Entomb, I hope that they unban those 2 cards.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, even for me, I would go slightly less and say that Troll would definitely be fine to come off, for sure, right? If they get rid of Grief, if they get rid of Reanimate, I would be also fine with them being like, hey, we're gonna bring back Grief, because then you can't like turn 1 double hit somebody.
It's 3 cards for 2 cards.
Yeah, totally. Well,
it's
3 cards for 2 cards, but you get a Delver on the board.
Yeah. So it's 3 cards for 3, and then if you remove the Grief, it's 3 cards for 3.
Yeah, a fair point. A fair point. It just, as a person who mulligans a lot, it really sucks.
Well, what should you stop doing, Zach?
I need to shuffle my deck better. I keep opening hands with no lands in them, being like, I didn't shuffle enough between the last round. I did to that end. I did mulligan to 5, I think 4 times in the main event. I did win 2 of those 4 times. So
nice.
I think that is a fair amount of, like, it rewards you to mulligan properly. You know, like, I think back in the day before there was like some benefit to mulligan, you just got 5 and you were like, this 5 is bad. You know, I think mulliganing is one of the things that I would say is something that I have gotten much better at over the last couple of years, and that I have learned to lean on a little bit more heavily. Because just seeing like another 7 and being like, well, 1 less card. How many times do you win with like 3 cards in your hand or 2 cards in your hand? It certainly sucks to start that way, but it's way worse if you're just like, I didn't get to play Magic at all.
Especially when you're playing a deck like Breakfast and you have like land, Nomad, Illusionist, and say like Forcer Days, and you've had a draw step in there. Like, yeah, that's
it can happen.
5 cards plus 1.
It did happen to me.
Did it?
I got an Eldrazi deck where they turned, my opener was like a Consigned to Memory, 3 lands, 1 was a Cavern, and Cephalo Illusionist, and I was like, well, this is as good as it's gonna get, I guess.
Yeah. I had some
Counter
crazy
Chalice.
I had bouts of luck in both positive and negative in this tournament. Like on camera against Doomsday in round 9, I double Thoughtseize bugged him, where he Thoughtseize me, took my force, I drew a force, and then again he Thoughtseize me again, and I had Entomb Reanimate. He takes my Reanimate. I have 1 land in play, so I Entomb and Traxa, shuffle my deck, present it, he cuts it, I draw, rip, Reanimate.
Nice.
Like,
yeah.
On camera. Like, really good luck. But also I had earlier in the day, I had a 7 land 7, a 0 land 6, 0 land 5, 0 land 4.
Yeah. Rough.
Yeah, so I lost.
Variance does happen, yeah.
So yeah, again, I also still got 21st. Like, we'll see. Like, variance hits both ways.
Yeah. I'm certainly not complaining about the number of times I mulliganed. I think 2 out of 4 of those were unforced errors. Like, I just actually need to shuffle my deck better in between rounds, and I had a lot of land out in 1 match and didn't shuffle enough, and they were all probably clumped together.
Try to clump, yeah.
But so yeah, I think it's interesting though, in that, like, previously when we had you on right after the BNR, I was feeling pretty down about Legacy. You were feeling more positive than I was, for sure. But I think we've kind of both not met in the middle, but we're both moving towards a homeostasis of this is not the worst, but it's not perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Things are not in crisis compared to some other formats, but they could be better.
It's no Premier, or not Premier. Sorry, Premier's a different format. Pioneer, who apparently Pioneer's just dead. Like, that on the table. They're just not
Pioneer's
doing it
dead,
anymore.
Standards and Shambles, from a balance perspective. Modern seems pretty good, actually. Anyway, the best deck looks really fun.
Great.
Pre-modern's great. As long as they don't release any new sets for it.
That I forget the guy, Trinket Mage, the podcast Trinket Mage. He put out a video talking about how many sets there are. Do you remember what Big Standard used to mean?
Extended.
But no, Big Standard was when right before rotation. You had both
5 set
blocks
standard up to
and
8 set standard. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
8 sets.
8 set standard. Yeah.
Right. That was crazy. 8-set standard. This coming standard will have 21 sets in it.
It's basically extended.
So to give you like kind of a level set, and what they said was Pioneer started with 24 sets.
Wow.
That's almost like you want, and I'm going to go off on a tangent here talking about game design, but you want your flagship constructed format to be accessible. And that's how I got back into the game, because I started drafting and I have a lot of the cards I need to play a viable deck in this format, after like two sets came out. How do you do that with 21 sets in a format? You have to buy singles, obviously. You can't hope to crack a deck. You can't pack to power your F&M hero, your deck to that point. I feel like it's wild to me that they were just like, hey, the block system's got to go. I was like, fine. Then they were like, we're gonna make standard 3 years instead of 2 years. And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Now they're just like 7 sets a year, all standard. We'll add that to the mix. It's crazy. That's wild. But yeah, Legacy is better than that.
By quite a bit. Legacy, Death and Taxes just took down the Mox.
Okay.
Like the Magic Online Championship qualifier thing, the 32 player event where the winner goes to the Mox and the Pro Tour. Adam Wasmo played Death and Taxes because he thought it would give him the best chance to take that down, and he did. So I mean, there's Legacies. There's a lot of actually pretty good ways to approach the format, and there's a lot of good decks. Now, that said, Legacy is very proactive right now and very punishing right now, and I think Legacy is at its best when you can make the conscious choice to hold back a spell because you can pick your spot for it better. But right now, in general, the risk reward is in favor of jamming a spell because the cost of doing so is relatively low and the payoff of doing so and having it work is so high that it kind of feels like very fast and very punishing because the most optimal way to play is risky.
Yeah, it's funny how that sort of mirrors how CDH is right now. Is in CDH you have 3 people, right? So it's always best to try and win and protect that with force of will, as opposed to stop your opponent from winning. Because if you do that, you and your opponent are down, but there's 2 other guys in the game that are up, right? And it's funny that Legacy, because of the window of opportunity to win games, is truncated, right? I think that's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
That proactively force of willing to win is much better than being like, I'm just going to stop my opponent from doing what they're doing and then eventually get there, right? Like I think that's what you're saying.
Exactly. And so it creates an interesting kind of format that I think feels a little bit more negative in play experience than it has in years past. I think in part because of that. Now, one thing I will say that I'm kind of grateful for is the share of Orcish Bowmaster is down a little bit right now.
I'm very afraid that it's going to go back up.
Well, Reanimator decks kind of correctly realized that the margin with which you win and lose by is more than an Orcish Bowmaster.
By a wide margin, yeah.
So you have a Bowmaster in play, your opponent can't really cantrip, or they brainstorm once, you hit them for 3, you have a 4/4 Orc army, and then they slam a 7/7 Murktide and it doesn't matter anymore.
Correct.
Or they attracts you and it doesn't matter anymore. And so, or they just don't ultimate Tameo. They keep it plussed and then regrow something relevant. So the Bowmasters weren't doing as well in the mirror there, so people started dropping the Bowmasters. The blue-black tempo deck underperformed over Eternal Weekend, the Bowmaster deck. On the flip side of it, like the Elves deck actually did really well. The Hatchery deck, there's a lot of X1 decks that really flourished, I think, because there's a little bit less Bowmaster. And so I think that that's really cool. If the metagame naturally drives to a place where Bowmaster is a little bit worse because people aren't playing this like Bowmaster arms race, and that means that the field's a little bit less saturated with Bowmaster, which means that cards that would normally be weak to Bowmaster can like exist in the space.
You can take them out of your bulk box.
Yeah, and play some cool, powerful, proactive decks with them. I think that's a net good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think my chief concern is that if something like Tameo goes in the BNR, that a lot of Bowmasters will come back, and that will feel. I actually like where Bowmaster is in the format right now. I don't love that it's in the format, but like I think right now, like I don't feel I've learned the play patterns. You know, I don't feel like I'm always worried about like someone getting me when I brainstorm. I don't feel like I have to brainstorm suboptimally constantly. But I feel like that will change if they ban Tameo in the next BNR. I think a lot of games for me, the games that I'm playing with Breakfast are going to be determined by an Orcish Bowmaster. I also got absolutely bodied in round 4 by a double Bowmasters play. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Can I go home? I think that's
That's
terrible.
painful.
I was like, I don't hate you, but I hate what you did. Opponent was like,
Yeah.
But yeah,
Opponent's there to win.
let me finish this off by once again congratulating you on 2 pretty amazing performances over the course of 2 days. Not to mention, I don't know what you did in Legacy last year. I don't recall off the top of my head.
I just missed top 32.
Just missed
I
top
lost the last
32.
round
So
to miss it.
still pretty damn good. And then yeah, like over the course of 2 years, 4 really amazing finishes. So congratulations on that, man.
Thank you. Yeah, this is my 3rd Eternal weekend.
Yeah, goddamn.
Pretty good.
And then I turn into a skeleton and die.
I mean, yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah. All right,
See
man.
how
Well,
next year goes.
again, thanks for coming on. I'm looking forward to seeing what I want to have you back on after the next Eternal weekend as well. Once we get back in to chat about what you think happened, what the current events are at that point,
Sounds good.
So yeah. Anyhow, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you on the next. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button. It grows the legacy content ecosystem we all love by relaying to the platform that you are part of our passionate community.
And to go even further, click the links for subscription or to support directly via Patreon to help us create more content for you. Patreon supporters get 4 exclusive extra episodes per month. If you're listening on an audio platform, head over to patreon.com/eternaldurdles.
Thanks so much for your support.
We'll see you in the next one.